The Tigers land not one, but two defensive linemen for the class of 2025. It's bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. Let's get it.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thrilled to have you here for bonus coverage, and thank you for making us your first listen every day. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, and of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button as well. If you were here for yesterday's episode, we gave you a little bit of a thumbnail anticipating that Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers were going to get good news on two different occasions, with both Brandon Brown and Damien Shanklin set to make their announcements on Friday, July 5th. And both Brandon Brown and Damien Shanklin picked the LSU Tigers. So the class of 2025 now up to 15 members, 2 commits now today and 1 on the 4th of July. 3 commits here in the last 2 days, all on the defensive side. LSU fans have been wondering, where are the defensive commits for the class of 2025? Well, they're starting to arrive. Let's take a look at each of the players that LSU landed here on Friday and what it means for the Tigers and their class of 2025 and moving forward at these positions. Let's just go chronologically and start with Brandon Brown. So Brandon Brown, the thumbnail on him, 4-star from the state of Florida. Brown was a Texas commitment. Bo Davis had been recruiting him to Texas. He was committed to Texas, had done so back in December. And when Bo Davis left Texas for LSU, he just continued recruiting Brandon Brown to LSU and ultimately got him here for a visit and flipped the Florida native, the Texas commit, to LSU. Think of it in reverse of kind of what we were talking about with DeCorian Moore. DeCorian Moore is a guy from Texas who was a one-time LSU commit. He decommitted. The fear was he was going to commit to Texas and stay in state. Ultimately goes to Oregon. That doesn't hurt you. You'd hate if DeCorian Moore had gone to Texas because you're going to have to play him. Think about this from the flip side. If you're Texas, you hate this. This is a guy you had committed in your class, a guy you wanted, and not only did you lose him, but you lost him to an in-state opponent. So now, in theory, Brandon Brown could turn around and help LSU beat Texas somewhere down the line. So significant. 6'1", 290 pounds, and he had offers from everybody. He was committed to Texas, but had offers from Tennessee, Texas, of course, Miami, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Auburn, Penn State, Michigan. You get the drill. Everybody wanted Brandon Brown. He had committed to Texas, now has flipped to LSU and becomes the second defensive tackle, joining Zion Williams, who committed on the 4th of July. One of the things that I think is important to recognize when we start talking about this position group for 2025, remember, you're going to lose your veteran players. You're going to lose Jalen Lee. You're going to lose Gio Paez. You're going to lose Jacoby and Guillory. All day, they'll be out of eligibility. The players you'll be returning as of now don't have a ton of skins on the wall. JVR Suggs has eligibility beyond 2024. He could come back for 2025. That's a guy from the junior or from a Division II. Sean Washington is a really talented guy from New Orleans. Went to Georgia. Left after a year, went to JUCO, now is in Baton Rouge. He could come back. Kimo Makanaioli is flipping from offensive line to defensive line. And then you got 3 freshmen for the class of 2024 that'll be freshmen here in the 2024 season. Everyone's very high on Dominic McKinley, 5-star number 1 player in Louisiana. But again, will just be finishing his freshman year. So I think I look at defensive tackle and I look at it in total and say, okay, after the 2024 season, you're going to have to go back into the portal and try to get some veteran players while you fill that gap, right? While the young guys you have grow up and then you fill that gap. But you want to make sure you're fortifying and growing from the bottom. You're filling that. It's like a cup of water. You're filling that cup. And look, if the cup's going to be empty, you have to fill it from the bottom, and then you could top it off, right, with some transfers if you need to go there. That's what you've done in adding the 3 players you did in this year's class. You're building it up. And now you've already got Zion Williams and Brandon Brown committed. So the fortification is coming from the bottom to keep pushing everything up toward the top. What was really surprising me, and this is maybe one reason why when people ask about Bo Davis and what the impact may be for Bo immediately, Bo Davis got to Texas in 2021. Remember, he was with Nick. He played at LSU. He was a strength and conditioning associate under Nick Saban at LSU back in the early 2000s. Went with Nick to Miami, then went with Nick to Alabama. Left Alabama for Texas. Went back to Alabama. Had runs at UTSA in the NFL, and then ultimately landed back at Texas. But Bo Davis, when he landed at Texas in 2021, he's been there 3 years, 2021, 22, 23, this most recent stint, 3 years. Bo Davis's first season was 2021. That spring, right, the draft following Bo Davis's first year at Texas, the Longhorns had 0 players drafted, not defensive tackles, 0 players total drafted. In this most recent draft, of course, Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, coached by Bo Davis, was the number 16 overall pick in the draft. So Bo Davis got there, and there was not a single Texas player drafted. By the time he left, Byron Murphy was the 16th overall pick of the draft. Bo Davis is a great talent developer. Yes, he can recruit. We know that. But when they're there, he can develop them. He was recruited by and coached by Pete Jenkins, who is widely regarded as the best defensive line coach in the game. So that's not only a guy who was recruited by, played for, and then coached with Pete Jenkins and continues to be mentored by him. So on every level, you love this from Bo Davis. And by the way, you may not know this, but do you know the last time LSU had a defensive tackle, an interior defensive lineman, taken in round 1? Just think about it for a quick second. The last time LSU had a defensive tackle taken in round 1 of the draft was Michael Brockers in 2012. It has been a dozen years since LSU has had a defensive tackle gone in round 1. Before Brockers, it was Dorsey in 08. Before Dorsey was Booger back in 99. First round interior defensive lineman. So Bo Davis is trying to fix that. And to fix that, it starts with recruiting, and it starts with getting guys like the 2 he's got in the last 2 days here with Brandon Brown and with Zion Williams. Great start for Bo Davis here in Baton Rouge. Look, we all would have loved for Bo Davis to be able to have landed some of those big-time portal players like we're talking about with Dominic Williams coming in from TCU. And it just, there were NIL considerations. It didn't work out. But if you're starting at the high school level, recruiting and building up, this is the way to do it. And you're seeing some of the net benefits of it already with Bo Davis, with a couple of interior defensive line commits here in the last 2 days. So Brandon Brown was the first prospect to commit on Friday. Damien Shanklin followed. I'll talk about him here in just a quick second. But of course, we are brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And of course, we're also brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all, summer is here. Man, we all love sports. And when the summer comes, the sports, as they say, stop sporting, kind of like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me and you keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So if you want to bet on Major League Baseball, you want to bet on the All-Star game, which is coming up, the Olympics are less than a month away, you can dream up bets all summer long over at FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com, and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. So Brandon Brown was the first commitment for LSU on Friday. And Damien Shanklin followed. Now, we did talk about Damien Shanklin here as well. If you were here for yesterday's episode, we gave you the thumbnail, but I'll repeat it just for those that might have missed it. Damien Shanklin is a top 100 overall prospect in the country. He's a defensive end, 6'5", 235, a long-rangey athlete out of Indiana. In the composite, he is the number 86 overall player, the 12th best edge in the country. 24/7 Sports actually rates him much higher. 24/7 has him as the 48th overall player in the country, the 5th best edge. So you're talking about a real, legitimate top 100 prospect. LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee. Those were the teams that were vying for his commitment there at the end. But again, had offers from everybody: Michigan, Iowa, Michigan State, Oregon, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas, USC, on and on and on and on. When you're talking about a top 100 overall prospect, everybody throws their hat in the ring. But I think this is a massive get for Kevin Peoples. And Kevin Peoples is someone that we haven't talked about with as much fanfare with this class. With this staff. Brian Kelly needed to go rebuild his defensive staff, and he did. He brought in Blake Baker, brought back Corey Raymond, brought back Bo Davis, and with all of those moves, they've come with a lot of fanfare. Jake Olson at safety, the safety coach, and Kevin Peoples coaching defensive ends or the edge position maybe haven't come with as much fanfare, but I think it's important to note those are two guys that were on Blake Baker's staff at Missouri, and guys that Blake Baker clearly thinks highly of, so much so that he brought those two guys with him to LSU. Now, Peoples has experience in the state. He'd coached at Northwestern State, he'd coached at Tulane, and he'd been in the SEC, of course, as well. So this is a guy with experience not only in Louisiana, but also in the SEC. So Kevin Peoples, though, is a guy who has the skins on the wall as a 30-year coaching veteran, coaching largely that position. And if you just look at the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023 at Missouri, with Blake Baker, Kevin Peoples had first-team all-SEC defensive ends each of those 2 years. Isaiah McGuire in 2022 and Darius Robinson this past year in 2023. 2 seasons at Missouri, both years, he had a different player earn first-team all-SEC honors at defensive end. And when I look at that position for 2025, you're losing Savion Jones, you're losing Braden Swinson, you're losing Paris Shand. You're going to have some young, talented guys back. Deshaun Womack will be in his 3rd year. The freshmen this year, Relaford, Cobbins, Carpenter, they'll all be going into their sophomore year. But similar to defensive tackle, you're going to be looking to fortify with some veteran presence, but you've got to build those numbers up again from the bottom up. And this is a huge part of that. And look, we've seen LSU's commitment to playing young players on the defensive side of the ball. If you can hang and you can cut it and you can make an impact, we saw Harold Perkins do it as a freshman. We saw almost out of necessity last year, guys in that secondary like Ashton Stamps and Javen Toviano play in their freshman year. They'll play freshmen. Whit Weeks played as a freshman at linebacker. They will play freshmen. I fully expect Don McKinley will play as a freshman at defensive tackle. LSU will play freshmen, even on the line of scrimmage. Other side, Emory Jones, Will Campbell, we all know the names. So Damien Shanklin's the guy that fits the bill. At 6'5", 235, you better believe that as he moves over the next 12 months toward getting to campus and starting his freshman season at LSU, he'll put on more weight and develop even more physically. And you better believe that's a guy that you should be really excited about. So, and there will be immediate playing time available for players on the defensive line for LSU in 2025. When I start to look at the LSU class, that's 15 commits now. Of course, Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, Carius Kern, the top 3 players in the class. Underwood, the number 1 overall player in the country. Harlem Berry, the number 1 running back in the country. Carius Kern, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country, according to On3. And then the 4th highest ranked prospect in this class is Damien Shanklin. So you are starting to build those defensive players in this class where for so long it was, you're flooded with great offensive talent. Where are the defensive guys? Well, now you've added Damien Shanklin, obviously. You added Jesse Harold after one of the camps, the defensive end out of Florida, the edge out of Florida. You've added, like we've seen, the 2 interior defensive linemen in Brandon Brown and Zion Williams. you're building up this class defensively. They're going to have to address the secondary, and you would certainly assume those commits are coming. As Bo Davis is having his time now, Corey Raymond's time is coming as well. But LSU with a huge recruiting day on Friday with 2 defensive linemen, Brandon Brown at defensive tackle, Damien Shanklin at edge, picking the Tigers, bolstering the class to 15 commits for the class of 2025. Okay. That'll wrap up this bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. Whatever podcast app you're listening to, please subscribe, rate us, leave a review. Let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every day for Locked on LSU. And, of course, if you are watching on YouTube, take a quick second, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every day on YouTube as well for Locked on LSU, your team every day.